Good day, and welcome to this narrated presentation. My name is Gino Bilodeau, and I am a student at the University of the People. This presentation is part of a discussion forum within the Introduction to Global Ethics course taught by Professor Dr. Sumba. Today, I will be evaluating a moral scenario in the light of each of the three formulations of Kant's categorical imperative, thus asking the question, can or can't we rob a bank? As an introduction, you will find out who Immanuel Kant is, and his Kantian deontology will be briefly summarized. I will then proceed to review the moral scenario based on the first, second, and third formulation of Kant's categorical imperative. And finally, I will conclude with a summary and references. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher, born in 1724 and died in 1804. He was a central figure in modern philosophy, shaping future philosophy in areas like metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics. His critical philosophy emphasizes human anatomy, arguing that human understanding structures experience, and reason gives us the moral law, thus unifying scientific knowledge, morality, and religious belief based on human autonomy, which also represents nature's ultimate end. Kant's ethics emphasized duties defined by right and wrong, distinct from the value categories of good and bad, as right actions are those we are morally obligated to do, while wrong actions are those we are forbidden from doing. This approach, known as deontology, prioritizes duties over values, with actions judged based on our adherence to universal moral laws. Kant believes all duties are derived from the categorical imperative, which we will explore further. The moral scenario chosen is robbing a bank. A bank robbery done right could provide an individual with immediate financial gain, social status or respect, sense of empowerment, escape from financial hardship. But regardless of the motives behind robbing a bank, let's explore whether, according to Kantian philosophy, such an action would be morally acceptable, and why. Kant has three ways of formulating categorical imperatives. For the first one, Kant states, act only in accordance with that maxim through which you can, at the same time, will that it become a universal law. He means that you should only act in a manner that you would want everyone else to follow, and based on this principle, you should avoid actions that you wouldn't want others to take. Kant would argue that an action is morally permissible if you are willing for it to be applied universally. If not, it cannot be considered a moral law. If your actions lead to contradictions when universalized, then they are actions you should avoid. As Hendrick states, the first formulation, thus, is a test of whether any particular maxim should be followed or not, and we test a maxim by universalizing it, that is, by asking if it would be possible for everyone to live by this maxim. Let's look at our example of robbing banks. If you are in a situation where you're considered robbing a bank, ask yourself what would happen if everyone robbed banks. If bank robbery were permissible for everyone, the concept of property would collapse, and society would be in turmoil, as no one would trust each other to respect their possessions. No rational person would want this kind of world, so we conclude that robbing banks is morally wrong, and it becomes our duty to avoid such actions. Let's safely assume that, based on this, Kant would agree with us. For the second categorical imperative, Kant states, so act that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. So according to Hendricks, that is, we shouldn't treat people merely as means to ends. we should treat them as ends, including ourselves, and to treat someone merely as a means is to not give the person the proper respect, to fail to treat the person with dignity, to treat the person as a thing. You could then ask yourself, does stealing money that's insured directly affect people, since it will be replaced anyway? How does this action impact their dignity? However, we should consider that bank robbing involves treating others, such as bank employees, customers, and even the law enforcement involved, as mere tools to achieve the robber's own goals, such as financial gain. We also have to consider that what is being stolen belongs to people, whether they are there or not at the time of the robbery. This violates Kant's principle of respecting the inherent dignity of individuals. The individuals involved in the robbery would be used as means to the robber's end, not as ends in themselves, which is a clear breach of the second categorical imperative. By robbing a bank, the robber fails to respect the humanity and autonomy of others, treating them as objects to be exploited rather than as beings with their own intrinsic value. Therefore, according to Kant's second categorical imperative, bank robbery would be morally impermissible. For the third categorical imperative, Kant states, act in accordance with the maxims of a member giving universal laws for a merely possible kingdom of ends. Hendricks would explain that as we are each the creator of our own moral rules, and as we are fully autonomous beings, and if our morals were imposed on us, then that would undermine our autonomy. We would no longer fully decide our actions. Kant envisions a hypothetical kingdom of perfectly rational moral beings and encourages everyone to view themselves as members or lawmakers of this kingdom, acting in ways that would be endorsed by this community of rational individuals. We can ask ourselves, in which kingdom would we allow robbing banks if we are establishing universal laws? Treating others as means, like in a bank robbery for personal gain, would not pass moral legislation, as lawmakers wanting to be treating as ends rather than means. Thus, robbing a bank is morally wrong in the kingdom of ends because it fails to respect the autonomy and dignity of others and cannot be universalized as a law that would be endorsed by all rational beings. As a summary, Kant's ethics prioritize duties defined by right and wrong with actions judged based on universal moral laws, and all duties derived from the categorical imperative, as we saw earlier. In the case of a bank robbery, Kant's first formulation argues it's morally wrong, as universalizing it would lead to societal collapse. His second formulation condemns bank robbery for treating people as mere tools, and the third formulation rejects it as it violates the autonomy and dignity of others in the kingdom of ends. We can confidently conclude that Kantian ethics would not approve of bank robbery. Thank you for listening.